Calling to order. Wow, that is the March 15, 2021 Lake Washington School Board study session. All board members, except for Director Stewart, who will be joining us a little bit later, are present and participating in person. And we have one item on our agenda tonight, and that is the curriculum adoption for math.
Yes,
Dr. Holman, can you lead us through that?
Yes, we do. Thank you. Can you actually hear me?
No. Well, I can, but I don't know it's going through the microphone. Mine is quite loud.
Okay. Yes, so I'm live. Tonight we have a study session focused on our elementary math adoption, and got to preview this with Dr. Jen Rose earlier today. Excited where we are in the process, and Dr. Rose has a presentation for us to really walk through process and where they are in their phase of math adoption. Dr. Rose also has a short update around high school ELA adoption, and that's at the very end of her presentation. So why don't we go ahead and do the math portion, have a discussion around math, and then we can conclude with ELA. Dr. Rose?
Great, thank you so much. So it's exciting to be able to present to you tonight, and I just wanted to let you know that concurrently with this meeting, we have about 70 teachers, administrators, and specialists meeting right now to get updated on the pilot and have access to our first set of materials. So we've got lots of stuff going on math related tonight. So goals of tonight are to give you an overview of curricular materials and some of the implications of our past practices, tell you a little bit about who's on our math adoption committee, share with you the work that we did last year as we went through the process, the work that we're doing this year, and then next steps as we think about implementation for K-5 math curriculum. So the status of our adopted resources, we're actually coming into this K-5 math adoption a couple years early. Our process in Lake Washington for curricular resources has been to renew resources about every 10 to 12 years. And part of that's just been a budgetary constraint, or it's been a system capacity constraint to say every 10 to 12 years a content area comes up for renewal. That is become problematic because previous adoptions up until the past 5 or 6 years or so really focused on physical texts. And so when we bought math materials, we bought K-2 math consumables, and we bought textbooks, so everyone had hard copy paper. That was a disconnect with purchasing digital licenses. So for example, we adopted, our last math curriculum was Envision 2011, which we adopted in 2011, and our digital resources ran out. And ran out about 3 years ago. We've had this issue in several curricular areas where there's a disconnect between the length of the adoption cycle and access to digital resources, and as our system becomes more and more digital, that becomes really problematic for access to materials. So for example, anything this year, and we've had several curriculums that this was true of, anything that used Flash this year became unusable in December, despite the fact that we had contracts with several different curriculum companies for access for 2 more years. So for some places, we're actually using PDFs right now instead of access to the curriculum. So with Envision, as I shared, we adopted it in 2011, and in 2018, that was our last year. We had 6 years of digital licenses. So in 2017, we started to have to pay for access to digital resources. In 2018, Pearson, which was the publisher, said, we're not providing any access anymore to Envision 2011, and you don't have a contract with us, so we have the ability to do that. So we ended up needing to pay a significant amount of money to move to Envision 2012. Again, we used Envision 2012 for 1 year, and then access to Envision 2012, digital and paper copy, expired as well. So our teachers had to go from 2011 edition to 2012 edition, and then last year in the pandemic, we were able to get access to the Envision 2020 edition. So we've just been essentially trying to make things work for the past couple years and get teachers access to curriculum materials, but the materials from 2011 and 2012 are actually pre-Common Core, and so we had alignment guides to bring Common Core standards into there, but it was kind of trying to make it work for the last few years. So in the fall of 2019, we pulled together a curriculum review committee, and it had teachers from every school, and our purpose was to look at evaluate our K-5 math curriculum and recommend next steps. So the committee first engaged in some significant professional learning to understand what should K-5 math curriculum look like in 2019-2020. We started by following the processes that we would for an adoption committee, which is deeply diving into standards, looking at effective practices, bringing an equity lens to things. And in about February of 2020, just over a year ago, the Curriculum Review Committee made a very strong recommendation that it become a curriculum adoption committee and look at resources. And part of that was looking at the expiration of the Envision 2012 resources and thinking how much the cost would be to have any new curriculum, and that we wanted it to be the absolute best curriculum and have a long-term plan for our K-5 math. So we determined that we needed to move to new curriculum, and we moved it into the curriculum adoption process. And in the curriculum adoption process, the first chunk of learning isn't really about what are the new materials out there. The first chunk of an adoption process is really looking at what does effective instruction look like. So we look at research, we look at student achievement data. We did a pretty deep dive on how our students do in K-5 math, and we actually track that data out to how our students do over time. So we look at how they do in middle school and in high school to look at the outcomes, knowing that K-12 math is a continuum. Then in the winter to spring of the first year, we start to really look at how we'll evaluate the curriculum, like looking at the learning that we've done, what are the things that we need to think about as we're evaluating curriculum, and how do we pick from the dozens of things that are out there, how do we pick the best things to evaluate? Then in the second year, we start to review the instructional materials and have a very formal process for that. We continue our learning and we actually do a deeper dive into inclusive practices and thinking about equity, so that as we're starting to really dig into materials, we're able to apply our learning and be really clear about what effective instruction looks like. And then in the winter and this year into spring, we pilot instructional materials, make a decision and make a recommendation to the school board to adopt instructional materials. So we've been right on track with that, with a really large committee. So as I shared, we have 52 people on the committee, and we have another 26 teachers that are helping pilot. So the committee is composed of teachers from every building, administrators. We have 9 administrators that have engaged since the beginning with this, specialists from multiple departments, and community members. And we started with 4 community members on the committee, which is pretty normal for an adoption committee. And due to the pandemic, we've had, through last year, we had less participation. So at this point, we have 1 full-time community member on the committee, but we have multiple other ways that we're looking to get community input and feedback. So for the first year, like I said, we really dove into the research and the learning. What's been really great about the research and the learning is that the National Council for Teachers of Mathematics has had a very clear focus on equity and equitable practices that are aligned with effective instructional practices. So that first resource that's on there, the NCTM Principles to Action, is really literally that, like taking the ideals and the principles and the goals that we have for all students and thinking, how does that actually translate into a classroom? What are the specific practices? What are the types of materials? How do students see themselves represented in the materials? So that was a great book study that we did. And we did that in collaboration with Leslie Nielsen, and from Arlene Crum, from OSPI and from Puget Sound ESD. And they came and worked with us specifically for a full day of learning to think about how equity is in mathematical instruction and ways that a large district can implement that. We also did another book study on taking action. That was a wonderful one. And then an exciting one was that last bullet there, How to Learn Math for Teachers, was a 30-hour online course by Joe Bowler out of Stanford that we had 290 elementary teachers sign up for over the summer. I thought we'd get, 50 would have been exciting, but 290 was just the desire for math learning and for new materials is really, really strong. So the committee has been wonderful to work with because they're just so passionate and excited about the learning and about thinking about new ways of instruction for kids. So I wanted to pull out a couple specific things from Principles to Action. These are directly out of the goals that they have in their writing and that became part of our interests. One of the things that we do in an adoption committee is an interest-based bargaining type procedure where we all share our interests and then we refine them down to what are the dominant interests of the committee. And they really align with those bullets under Principles to Action. So thinking about much higher levels of mathematics for achievement for each and every student, and specifically addressing unproductive and productive beliefs, obstacles, and key actions that must be understood, acknowledged, and addressed by stakeholders, and then ways for teachers to be able to move on that. So not things that are in a vacuum, but to really think about how these principles can actually become the daily math experience of students. We also worked with the equity department over last year and this year with several different equity rubrics and tools to be able to bring them to bear on looking specifically at curriculum materials. And we got an early look last year at what OSPI just released as a final document this past February, their Screening for Biased Content tool. And that's a great tool. This is a ton of text up there, so I won't read it to you, but I pulled out the different categories that are on OSPI's tool, and just one of the indicators. Each of these categories has multiple indicators that are look-fors in curriculum. So I just pulled out one from each of those, but that's a tool that we're adapting and using as we're piloting to evaluate the curriculum to really make sure that we're looking at all different aspects of curriculum. It's not just about, are there math facts in there? What are our math standards represented? But really deeply, how does the math learning help each and every student see themselves as a math learner and achieve at high levels? So with all of that learning, we refine our district rubrics. We have 5 different district rubrics that we use. So we take that learning and we put it into a refinement so that as we begin to evaluate the curriculum, we're applying our learning and we're looking very specifically for what are the indicators of effective curriculum. And with the rubrics, we use the EQUIP rubric and then the core standards criteria for Common Core state standards. We revised those with a lens of being very specific about the standards and equity and equitable practices, attributes, and elements. Some of the things that we also looked at were core shifts in mathematical instruction. So for example, in Common Core state standards, one of the most important things, and I'll show you a slide in a moment, are the mathematical practices. So Principles to Action talks about this as well, that instead of trying to cover many, many math facts or trying to cover lots of different specific, smaller details, effective instruction focuses on the transfer of learning and the coherence over time. Like, what are the deeper things that a student can understand the principle and be able to apply it to multiple different sets of numbers as opposed to multiple sets of numbers. So that's a shift that we think about in terms of, especially when we're evaluating for rigor, is not bigger numbers or more numbers, but the complexity of the thinking is absolutely essential, and that all students should be able to access and achieve at high levels with complexity of thinking. So that's a greater focus on fewer topics. That's coherence, where students aren't saying, Unit 3, I learned this, Unit 4, I learned that, Unit 5, I learned this. But that coherence of, I'm a mathematical learner, and I see math in my world all around me, and it makes sense to me. And I'm excited about math, and I want to pursue it in a way that really challenges me in terms of my thinking, not in terms of the size of the numbers, but really in terms of the complexity of it. And I was thinking, it actually made me think about some work I did a couple of years ago when we were looking at science, and I talked with many different department chairs in chemistry. It's a long story for another day. But I asked them what the attributes were of successful students in college, and what all of them told me, and I talked with 10 different people. All of them said almost exactly the same thing. They could have been in the room together, that students need to be able to think at complex levels and do multi-step thinking, that many students can do x plus y equals z, but if you ask them to say x plus y equals z and then feeds into this equation over here that has to do with the migration of birds or the salinity of a lake, they get lost. And then if you say to them, and why is that important? Then they're really lost. And that's really what makes for a successful learner in college and elsewhere, is thinking about that complexity, the coherence, and then the rigor where they understand the purpose. So back to math. Our 5 different rubrics that we think about are standards alignment, effective practice, assessment, digital resources, organization, and design. And then with this one, we're adding in the specifics of the OSPI rubric. With all of these, we revise them to align with current research, and that research, again, is something that's really grounded in thinking about equity and equitable practices. So thinking about Joe Bowler's work, thinking about all the different pieces that talk about discourse in math, things that were really important to students getting that type of education. So we base it, of course, on Common Core. And this is just a dense slide to say, like, when we're building these rubrics, we're taking enough of the specifics of this that we can make sure that we are very standards focused and that we're always including mathematical teaching practices. And so some of these go across different rubrics, but these are some of the things that we found them on. So this was about the time we'd gotten to this work almost exactly a year ago, and then the pandemic hit. And as I said, this committee is just a phenomenal group of educators, and we all closed down, and every last one said, we need to keep this work going. And so we just switched to a virtual format, and we kept the exact same adoption process going throughout the spring, where we met every few weeks in the spring, and then when we came back in the fall, we've met every 2 weeks without fail for either 1.5 to 2 hours so that we could make sure that we continue that work and that learning. We've had subgroups working along the way as well, which is something we would do in a typical adoption to problem solve and think about other different things that we wanted to do and make sure that we're thinking about all of the details. So that was last year going into this year. This is just a visual of our overall calendar that I've shared with you. So we're right now in the middle of, actually not in the middle, we're just starting our pilot tonight of one of the curriculum. And in about 3 to 4 weeks, kind of with the rolling schedule that we have, we'll pilot the other one and make a recommendation to you in late May. And that's later than we typically would do with an adoption, but there have just been so many moving pieces that we had to have a little bit of grace with our schedule to be able to make it work for teachers and really think about how to support student learning. So there are dozens, if not hundreds, of materials out there for K-5 math, and every publisher will tell you how awesome and standards aligned their materials are. So we used a couple different criteria and parameters to narrow down what we wanted to look at. First, they absolutely had to be aligned to Common Core state standards. They also needed to be something that was updated enough and reflected our learning on equitable practices. So those were things where we looked for specific address in the materials of what we had learned about effective practice. We also wanted to be clear that the curriculum was for all students, and so we wanted it to be flexible enough that it could differentiate and support learning of all students, and that it needed to have digital resources. That was something that we just recognized, like that's been something that's absolutely essential. We wanted it to be digital resources. We wanted it to be dynamic so that what we buy this year isn't stagnant and outdated by this time next year. And that's happened with curriculum in the past where all of a sudden, surprise, we adopted Envision 2011 and there was an Envision 2012. So that's something that we're really thoughtful about, that we want the curriculum to be reflective of current research and current student needs. And another category was just it had to be available by June of 2021. There's a lot of great work going on, but we want it to be something we could really look at. We also looked at what are other districts using, and OSPI has a terrific report that says what most districts are using for their core curriculum, so that was something that was interesting to look at. We used Ed Reports, which is a nonprofit curriculum evaluation site that does a deep dive into different curriculum to make sure that it was standards aligned, and used that as a double check for us. We also just asked the committee, what have you heard, what have you seen, what have you used, what are some different things that are out there? And with all that, we came up with 12 different curricula that we wanted to look at. So with those, that was our first swipe at what we wanted to look at. The one on the bottom, Eureka, was not going to be available. It looked like a fantastic product, but not available soon enough. So we took it off. The next group, group 4, we were really interested in looking at open educational resources for a number of reasons, that there's some great minds behind some of the OER resources out there. And potentially at some point it could save us money, although most districts that have adopted OER have said it has not saved them money because you put in so much time into organizing it yourself. But the bottom 4 there are all versions of Engage New York. So we had a subcommittee evaluate them, and the one that was the best version of Engage New York was Great Minds. So these ended up being the curriculum that we actually did a deep dive into. And so with that, the way our committees work is each group, so like standards alignment would take those 8 curriculum, and standards alignment would evaluate all 8 curriculum just on standards alignment. Organization would do that just on organization. So all of the curricula were evaluated by each rubric group without any discussion between the rubric groups. We really wanted to evaluate the different elements of curriculum without saying, oh, did you read this one? It was great, or that one was terrible. We really wanted to keep it just a clean evaluate for something that you've developed some expertise on. We captured all the scores in a OneNote. And then at this point, as we're getting into that deep evaluation, this is when we actually did that deeper dive into indicators for inclusive curriculum. So we had a professional learning session with the directors from these different departments to really help us think about what are the different attributes that we want to think about in addition to the research and the reading that we've been doing. So with the curriculum, this was just the rough cut score. These, when we went through and had every person on the committee evaluate and enter their rubric scores, these were how the curriculum fell out. And what was affirming to us in this was that we actually were looking at a lot of great things. Like I will say, this is not great praise, but these are not terrible. Yeah.
The higher, the higher the number, the better, the lower.
The higher the number, the better. Yes, the higher the number, the better. And it was out of 4. So the higher the number, the better. And we also knew going into this, like with any curriculum adoption, you're never going to find one thing that's perfect. You're never going to find one thing that doesn't need additional thought and supplement. There's always going to be something to think about with that. So each committee evaluated the curriculum, and then the next part of the process is the rubric groups shared their recommendations and their thoughts and their evaluations of the curriculum. So we did that on all the different curricula, and then we use a consensus process to eliminate curriculum to get to the 2 that we want to pilot. And it was actually, it's affirming for the process that it was not that difficult to be able to go from 12 curriculum down to 2. And by the time we got to the last 2, there was 100% consensus for those top 2 choices. An illustrative mathematics, which is a brand new curriculum coming out this year. It's supported right now by LearnZillion, was one of our top 2, and then Ready Math, published by Curriculum Associates, was another one that was our other finalist. So it was after especially pulling in that third bullet, thinking about pedagogical background, access and inclusivity, critical thinking and extension. That's what made the decision to pilot these 2 easy. These are the ones that we said the language and the resources really align with our beliefs about students. So this is where we are at this moment. Ready Math is presenting right now to the group of 70 folks, and here's the work that we'll be planning for the rest of this year, that we're engaging in for the rest of the year. So pilot teachers, so adoption members and additional teachers that are usually grade level teachers. We had multiple teachers in our adoption committee say they've been doing really great planning with their teams, and so they wanted to include their teams in this. Great, more the merrier. That's wonderful feedback for someone to have a group of teachers that have not been engaged in this learning to be able to evaluate the curriculum and give us feedback. That is great feedback for us. All pilot teachers are piloting both programs. What we found in the past is if people pilot one or the other, they fall in love with the one that they piloted, and so we want them to pilot both. And we're going to get additional feedback from students. We will survey them digitally, and in like kindergarten classrooms, we have some processes for kindergarten students being able to give feedback as well. We use, if it's digital, we use different emojis or smiley faces, or we can have the teacher ask for feedback as well. We'll have parent and community feedback and teacher feedback as well. One of the things that we will be continuing to think about is that, as you well know, there are many shifting pieces in all levels of our educational system right now, and really in K-5. So what we have set up with the pilot teachers is that they will pilot with fidelity. They will not pilot as they've done in the past. So it will likely not look like a third grade teacher piloting with 24 kids in the same way, because part of her class may have gone to be remote, part might be in person now, or they're brand new students for some of the teachers. So what Ready Math has done, what Illustrative will do, is look at where our students are and provide essentially the same lesson that Envision would, the same learning that Envision would. So the students aren't learning something wildly different. They're learning in the same progression that we had set up for them with Envision. They'll just be using different materials for that set of lessons. So we're working to pilot with as much fidelity as we can, knowing that we have to be more flexible. We have to support teacher learning. And we know that we have 2 really good products. Ready Math is a phenomenal product and the most popular, not that that necessarily always goes into quality, the most popular program in the state of Washington. Illustrative is brand new, and it's kind of an exciting one. It's the one that's been designed by kind of a think tank of fantastic math educators that at some point will be OER. It's not at this point. But illustrative math at the middle school and high school has been published for several years, and it's the most popular math program in the state of Washington. They're both incredibly highly rated on multiple levels, and just have had, we've had a great experience so far with both of them. So we know we're choosing between 2 really good products, and that we need to be flexible about how we're getting back that information. But with 70 teachers piloting in multiple different ways, we think we're going to get some good information. We will have all student groups piloting, general education students with IEPs, safety net, and Quest programs. We have Quest teachers, special education teachers in our adoption group as well. So our community engagement plan, we've been putting updates since last year on the website, and we will have a connections article going out with digital access to the materials and a survey link. Parents who are in the pilot are getting in-depth information about it. So they'll get a letter as we start piloting that will tell them what it is, how their students engaging, and give them the ability to give us feedback on that as well. And we're really excited for that. I mean, with the format of learning that we're in right now, parents are going to be able to just do a deep dive and really give us some good input on that. We'll have materials physically displayed here. And then we'll have a parent and community information night in mid-April. That'll be a virtual event where parents can engage. And we'll be able to give them the context and understanding about curriculum review and be able to give them some choices. And then their input will be considered when we get to our final decision-making process. So our next steps are, like I said, teachers are going to pilot materials in multiple settings. We'll continue to get input. We'll take all of this information back in together as a committee and make a decision to make a final recommendation to you. And then that next piece is planning for the implementation, which will be a significant lift for next year. The thing that's exciting about it, though, is like I said, teachers have been so thrilled that new math curriculum is coming. It's been something that's been a need for a while, and they've done a great job with the materials that they've had, but their professional learning and the recognition that our focus on equitable practices and effective mathematical practices is time for a refresh of that and the ability to do professional learning across the system. So that is K-5 math in an extended nutshell.
We'll just do round robin questions.
Yeah, are you open for questions?
Of course.
Does anyone else want to answer a question? Ask a question?
Let's go for it.
That's all right. Sorry. Some of you might not know where and how I wound up in this role, but 14 years ago, when my first grader came home and told me he was not good at math, that was the first day of my campaign for school board, because his segment of the community was not being served by investigations, which was currently had been implemented, and it was great for kids who struggled under a more traditional curriculum. But it was terrible for someone where if you asked him to draw 6 bugs, every bug had to have exactly 6 legs and the right carapace and et cetera. And so I always get nervous when we talk about this stuff. I know that we could use a new K-5 curriculum, but the buzzwords that I'm hearing are old buzzwords. Dr. Bowler is an enthusiastic teacher, but she is definitely from one end of the spectrum, and if she's our paradigm, that makes me nervous. Mm-hmm. So what I'm really interested in here is not telling you what, but asking you a question where next time this comes to us, I would very much like you to have an answer ready for me. And that is, in terms of equity, how does this serve our Asperger's and autism spectrum community? Because in a nutshell, my problem with the original investigations was that it was show your reasoning in words, numbers, and pictures. Mm-hmm. The conjunction matters tremendously. Or every kid might grasp it in their own way, and asking kids to prove their thinking. If a kid's gotten to the point where they say 2 + 2 is 4, and you ask them why, and it's because 2 + 2 is 4. Mm-hmm. It's a very frustrating experience. Mm-hmm. So I can't. What I've seen tonight, I'm glad that you're evaluating stuff, and I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm also kind of on edge due to other things. So I'm not going to dive into this very deeply. I just need to know more about what you're doing to make sure that our little engineers who aren't good at describing their thinking in words can succeed in this curriculum using numbers. Mm-hmm. So that's the end of my statement. It's not really a question.
Jen, did you say that families will have access online to the resources as well?
Yes.
So we can provide that to the board as well ahead of time if you're interested.
So with those online resources, sorry, I'm trying to speak close because I realize that you can't having listened online, when people have masks on, it's actually very hard to hear consistently. So try to speak into the mics as much as possible. with the online piece and giving parents the opportunity, can we provide example lessons being taught so that they can actually see how it is done? Since we have remote and the capacity to do it, it seems like a good opportunity.
Yeah, I can definitely explore that, for sure.
Are you done, Siri? Oh, okay. A couple questions. Thank you for all of this work. A 2-year process. It's obviously not easy. It sounds like you've got a good team and very involved members of that team. Did you say we started with 4 community members, or we're still at 4 community
We started with 4.
Okay, and
We
then-
started with 4, and we did outreach through teachers and principals to see if it's difficult to add people in the middle after you've done the learning, but we started with 4, and they were attending through last year, and then into this year, we had some of them step off.
And so we've added more.
We have not added more.
Do we plan to add more?
We plan to be able to give lots of parents access and get their input through information night and through sending surveys out through Connections and through pilots.
I guess that would concern me a little bit, not having parents or, excuse me, community members more deeply involved.
It's always a goal to have parents involved and community members, and it was difficult through this time to be able to get parents to be able to commit to it.
Well, I just hope there was an open mind to adding parents and
Yes.
community members as we go forward.
We have in our social studies adoption, which is running right now, we have 10. So that is wonderful to have that many parents and community members on a group that's also about 60.
That sounds great. You mentioned that it's being piloted, or the 2 different curriculums are being piloted. Between all elementary schools, are they piloting one or the other, or just a few select schools?
They're all piloting, so there's at least 1 teacher piloting at every elementary school. Some schools have actually up to 3 or 4. And so they'll pilot both curriculum. They're starting Ready Math. Depending on grade levels, we've staggered it based on the return to hybrid learning. And so they'll pilot for the next about 4 weeks Ready Math, and then we'll again stagger transition over to illustrative. So every school has at least 1 person piloting, and they'll pilot both so that they can do a good comparison.
And so who will have access to those online resources to see what kind of curriculum it is and what kind of problems, like to Siri's point of examples? When you said it'll be online, is it only accessible by certain grade
No,
levels?
it'll be an open,
Okay.
so anyone who's piloting can look at all the in-depth curriculum pieces and go very far in depth. I'm working with them right now to get the most depth possible we can so parents can see lessons and units and pacing and types of questions and all those things, so they can have a really deep look at the curriculum.
Okay. It would be great if we had access to that online
Yeah.
source so that we can look at it as well.
Absolutely.
I think that is all the questions that I have. Oh, I did have a question about when we're looking at the rapidly changing pace of our world and technology, and realizing that subscriptions run out and stop getting supported. Do you feel, or does the team feel, that it's not just this concern of continued support, but that the curriculum is changing also rapidly, and we need to stay on top of what's out there and how things are being done?
I think that's essential, and I think that's the format that we've been looking at, both in terms of how my department and other departments work and how we interact with each other, and the resources themselves. So like with Amplify ELA, we adopted it for implementation this year, but we had access to it last year for piloting. And so the first week in May of something that we'd already made the decision that we were going to adopt it, but the first, maybe it was the second or third week in May, all of their resources on their front-facing page were Black authors. And then they've had several other things where, as things change in the world, like with elections or with different things happening, they'll change the resources so that teachers have access to consistent resources, but they also can have things that are topical and relevant to be brought to the top of mind. But the other thing in terms of thinking about curriculum is that our department works with professional learning, works with intervention, works with lots of different departments to have ongoing professional learning that's related to effective teaching practices and effective curricular resources. So our goal is, like with K-5 science or with any curricular area, that we have an advisory. Actually, in every content area, we have advisories that are teachers that are representative that help us think about what's the professional learning teachers need, what refresh do the resources need. Even with something we've adopted, how do we need to adjust that so that we're thinking both dynamically about the resource itself is dynamic, and then our work with it is thinking about how do we continually improve it and make sure it meets our students' needs most effectively.
Thank you.
For the pilot that's going on right now, are we piloting it in a combination of in-person and online?
Yes.
In equal measure, or what is, can you give me
I'd
an
have
idea?
to survey, things just change so fast that we're piloting whatever the teacher on our adoption committee or the pilot teacher, whatever format they're in, that's what they're piloting it in.
Okay, so then we're evaluating the programs both for their efficacy to be taught online and in person.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Now, the idea is this will be implemented next fall? Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to add, with only K1 in person right now, they would be the only ones piloting, and then as we roll in 2-3 on Thursday,
Yep.
and then a week and a half later, 4-5.
And do I have it right then that we will be piloting in those grades as well? Okay.
Yeah, because the curriculum resources will transition with the teacher to their new
Correct.
setting, whether it's remote or in person.
Correct. And it's actually been great. Both curriculum companies have said, if you're piloting entirely remotely, here's some things to think about if you're piloting blended. So they're trying to stay ahead of that curve as well and support us to be able to make some good decisions with that.
Okay. It's painful to say these words aloud, but when we think about next fall, there is a reasonable chance that we will have a significant number of students who are still learning remotely. So this is not a question, but a comment. I assume the committee is thinking about that, and what that looks like for the fall, and implementing a new program and making sure that that we're doing it in a way where the students who do need to remain remote,
Yeah.
won't be further impacted.
Yeah, we've been thinking about that a lot I think across the whole system, but thinking about how does the work and the learning that we've done this year, where it's really, we were chatting before, it's really stretched all of us in terms of our instructional skills and in terms of how we think about students. And there's been some things that are some really powerful mind shifts about things, like at secondary, maybe it's about thinking about grading. For elementary, I think there's a lot in terms of student independence and thinking about really supporting students as learners. So I think one of the things that we continue to plan for is that the work that we're doing right now is responsive to what teachers and students need right now, but it has to be connected to that longer term work next year. So a focus on, we used Achieve the Core's guidelines around essential content and standards in our core areas. And so we keep thinking like, we did that work for this year, and then for next year we need to think about further, how do we keep that focus crystal clear and help all students access it to more depth. So as much as we're responding to this thing today and that thing tomorrow, it's part of thinking about that longer term impact on education.
That's great. I gave you a very dour short-term way of thinking about it, and I appreciate that you responded with an uplifting long-term way of thinking about that. That's excellent. That's exciting. You can't see, but I was smiling during the answer. The other question I have is, you said that for one of the programs, I think it was illustrative math, that at some point it will be OER. I think I heard you say sort of parenthetically. And OER, I wrote down open education resource, sort of, like open software, the same idea.
Yeah, it is.
Open source, I guess.
There's some I'm less familiar with open code software, but with open educational resources, some are just kind of some lessons that people put up, and some are really thoughtful programs. So like illustrative mathematics is, I'm not remembering the exact think tank behind it, but it's really a lot of deep mathematical thinkers who came together with funding from some major nonprofits, because one of the big issues of equity nationwide is that if you don't have significant amounts of money as a district, you may not have access to quality curriculum. And so that's kind of one of the major moves in national education, is thinking, how does every curriculum, every district, every school, every teacher have access to high-level, standards-based, excellent curriculum? And so illustrative mathematics is one of the premier programs that is being developed by a nonprofit for open educational resources. And it's been, like I said, middle school and high school, it is so well thought of, and it's so being widely adopted in lots of places. The issue with OER, so one of the things that we looked at, another great program is the San Francisco Unified School District has a really good K-5 math program. So we examined that and realized, and actually talked with Highline, who adopted it last year, and talked with San Francisco, and the cost for adopting an OER, especially K-5 math, is almost the same, if not, actually it's the same, if not more, as adopting something that's like you pay for it and you get the whole thing perfectly done, because they're paying for massive amounts of consumables and then people's time to put it on a SharePoint and then create your own assessments and make sure the links work, all that stuff. But it's a really interesting point in curriculum of thinking there's a significant desire and resources starting to align with having excellent high quality curriculum materials available for nominal fee or just free. Like if you can access things digitally like our secondary students can, there's more options for quality OER.
Okay, but you identified some potential downsides to those types of programs. What do we know about when this program will shift to that, and how is that feeding into your evaluation?
It's so it won't feed into the evaluation. At this point, the decision is completely based on the quality of the curriculum.
Okay.
Down the way, if it becomes OER, it can help us think about first how we save money and think about how we might be more flexible in terms of thinking about curriculum. So K-5, we would not want to change that out very often. We do want to change it out more than every 10 to 12 years. We are working to shorten the cycle of adoption just because it's not feasible in the 21st century to have 12-year-old social studies textbooks and think that it's relevant to most students. So we're working to change that within all the constraints that a big school system has. But thinking about how we might be able to be more flexible and be able to have, like in a social studies classroom, be able to have sort of bundles of resources that we change as time goes on, as there get to be more quality, high quality OER resources. So for illustrative mathematics, it's probably going to be 2 to 3 years before it's widely available for free. And then we can evaluate it to see at that point, can we shift over to it being something that's less expensive? Or might that be our next math adoption?
I see. Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Carlson, back to you.
Yeah, so I finally came up with some questions that are potentially useful. And the first is, are the people who are beta testing the two things, what level of professional development are they receiving? And are these teachers who were already part of the committee?
Yes, most of the teachers, so 35 of the people piloting have been on the committee since fall of 2019. So they were with us with the book study for action to Principles to Action, work with OSPI, Puget Sound, DSD. They've been with us for developing the rubrics, using the rubrics. Those 35 teachers have been part of the committee since.
I'm actually more worried about the teachers who haven't been there.
Right,
Because
yes. So part of it, what I think actually helps it be a really strong pilot for us is when we have teachers who have not engaged in that level of learning, because we're not going to be able to create a year and a half worth of in-depth 2 hours every other week professional learning for every teacher in the
so
district.
there is a second.
Yeah, there's a second wave. So
cohort.
having teachers jump in that do not have that learning and having them be able to evaluate helps us plan implementation.
Right.
So the adoption committee, the pilot teachers that are not part of the adoption committee will give us input, but they're not going to vote on the final decision. The adoption
Right.
committee members who have engaged in that deep learning, they will vote on the decision.
Okay.
But the teachers that are new to it are going to give us great information about implementation, what kinds of professional learning teachers need, what supports, what kind of collaboration. So the prep that they're getting right now, they're in a 2-hour meeting right now training with Ready Math. And so that will be their everyone's initial, like the new pilot teachers, that's their initial how to access. The pilot teachers on the adoption committee have already spent multiple hours with Ready Classroom evaluating from the rubric, and then as we went through the decision-making process. So it's something that gives us a lot of good information to have multiple people.
Yeah, and the reason I ask is that the investigations challenge, I think, was something where if you really had been through a whole lot of training on it, it could work.
Yeah.
But it kind of fell on its face coming out of the gate if you hadn't had a tremendous amount of PD, and I'm not sure how much PD we can do. So I'll be very interested in hearing specifically about the response of the teachers who aren't part of your
Yeah.
committee, who've been piloting it.
Both of the curriculum that we're looking at have extensive PD built in, both to the contract and the curriculum itself.
Right.
And that, your exact point, steered us away from San Francisco.
Right.
It's a great curriculum, but San Francisco Unified spent a decade training on math before they created this curriculum. Highline did the same thing. They've had 7 years of PCCs at elementary dedicated to talking about math. And so when we talked with them about taking something that took a lot on the teacher's part to organize to get to best learning,
Right.
nope, that's not where we are right now. Maybe at some point.
Good, thank you.
Jen, can you remind us of the timelines of the pilot, when it will conclude, and when the board may see this again?
Yes, let's see, I don't think I have the specific dates in here. The pilot will conclude, let's see, pilot will conclude, I think April 29th is our last day of the pilot that will gather all the information. And we've got multiple meetings stacked up right then because we want to make sure that we can make a decision and make a recommendation to you as quickly as possible. We actually have both curriculum right now going through IMC. We thought we'd get ahead of that curve a little bit and get an evaluation from both sides. And it was funny because we were trying to get some people to evaluate an AP statistics textbook and could not get any takers. And then I said K-5 math, and everybody wanted to review.
So since you brought it up, I'm going to ask the question. Can you remind the board as to what the difference between the curriculum adoption process is and what it evaluates and what IMC, the Instructional Materials Committee, evaluates for our resources?
So the adoption committee does what I described as that really deep review and analysis to get to a point where they'll recommend resources. They're the ones that evaluate for standards, they evaluate for with an equity lens, they evaluate for implementation, all those different pieces. The Instructional Materials Committee evaluates the curriculum for grade and age level appropriateness and for any other issues of bias that for multiple stakeholder eyes on materials to identify any additional bias that needs to be thought about before we implement with our students. So they're more looking at the, it's such a diverse committee. We've got parents, we've got students, we've got elementary librarians, so it's looking at it from that lens of someone who's not deeply steeped in it to evaluate for age and grade level appropriateness and any issues of bias.
Thank you. I served on the IMC for 3 years, so looks like there's more questions.
So I just wanted to follow up with Director Carlson's piece about the curriculum and its focus. So I actually agree very strongly with the fact of the challenge with investigations was very much, it was a language-based curriculum, which made it very hard for math learners, students with dyslexia, anybody with some reading challenges, whereas they could have succeeded in math if it was presented in a different fashion and weren't able to. My daughter was a perfect example of that. She couldn't read the story problems, so you couldn't do them. And so she believed she wasn't good in math, and it was being able to approach it differently. So I do think there's a lot of piece to really think about how this impacts across the board for our numerical students who are strong in that area. How do we ensure this curriculum meets their needs as well as the needs of others?
So we had what made the final decision going to these two to pilot relatively easy and got us to 100% was we went to the top three, the last three that were on the table, and we'd eliminated many of the other curriculum for some of the things that you're talking about. We went to the last three and asked the reps, can you talk to us, can you show us specifically what is the pedagogical foundation of your curriculum? How are you supporting inclusivity and access for every single student, and how are you supporting critical thinking and rigor for every single student? And the answers we got back from the two were wonderful. I mean, when they talked about the third one that we didn't choose, framed it as, here's some resources for struggling students. The two that we ended up with were, here's multiple ways that students who might need additional ways of access can access these resources. And here's multiple ways that students can, many of the curriculum we looked at when we asked about the rigorous thinking parts of the curriculum said, they showed us worksheets with higher numbers or lots of words. And so these two that we looked at were very much about deep cognitive challenge and not as word-based. But I absolutely hear that you'd like to see more examples of that, and so I'll be happy to provide that for you guys. But that's how we went to easily getting to 100% consensus for these two, was focusing in on those three aspects of the curriculum.
Any other questions? I'm good. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have one last slide for you just in about English language arts. So way back in another year, I was in front of you a while talking about our adoption of 6 through 8 English language arts. And what we had tried to do in that adoption, and what we're working on doing all of our adoptions at secondary, is not separating middle school from high school, partly because we really need new resources and it works to combine them, and partly because it makes so much sense to have all secondary teachers in the secondary adoption be connected across the levels so there isn't that disconnect between the resources and the learning. So we started a 6 through 12 adoption, and it was meant to conclude last year. Middle school, right about this point, middle school had fully piloted their first curriculum and mostly piloted the second curriculum that they were piloting. And they were able to continue just finishing up that pilot in remote learning. So middle school was able to get to a decision point last year, made a recommendation for Amplify ELA, which has been wonderful to implement this year. High school teachers were not able to get as far into the pilot, and so right around this time last year, right around the beginning of April, we made a decision to pause the pilot because they couldn't get to fidelity with piloting. So we paused the pilot, resumed it in late fall, and concluded the pilot and used our consensus, same adoption procedures, to make a recommendation to adopt My Perspectives, which is a Savas product for 9 through 12 English language arts. So it's currently going through IMC, but that is something that will come in front of you in the next few weeks.
Did we have?
Dr. Sage?
Did we have good representation from community on that particular?
We did. We actually had, because we were able to get, most of it was pre-pandemic, we had several parents on the committee. We had 3 who mostly stayed on through the whole process. We had some that when we were doing some of the rubric stepped off, but they came back on for decision making. And we also had literally hundreds of student surveys on that and parent surveys, just because we were able to access, like, we had teachers piloting with hundreds of kids and got tons of great feedback with them. We had a parent night last February, I think, so we were able to do more outreach in more typical ways.
Thanks.
I think we're good. I have one global question. I think I overheard before the meeting you talking to Director Bleasner about having all these meetings through Teams or Zoom. How did that work for this process? Is that something you think that in future adoptions, future reviews, that we'll continue to meet remotely? I just think to me, I'm thinking about our own experience of meeting with different groups in the community. It's so much easier to come to people when everyone can stay in their homes and do it.
Yes.
So I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on how that works.
Yes, I think it's actually I was sharing that I think it's changed some ways we think about doing our work, that we're not going to be able to go back. There's just too much that we're able to do if we're thinking about it in a remote setting. If we were not in a remote setting, if we're trying to have our K-5 meeting tonight, we couldn't because the board's here, but we'd have 70 people in here. And I was thinking, I put on heels today and thought, I remember like being in heels moving all these tables as you try and get people in and moving snacks around, and like people are late because they're stuck in traffic. So I think one of the benefits of being in remote learning is just we can be highly functional and highly productive in a remote setting with adult learning and have more engagement because people aren't worried about racing home or any of those kinds of pieces. They are home or they're in their classroom, and we're not spending all the time on the road, and we're spending it thinking and working and collaborating with each other. The teams have been great in connecting with each other, being really positive about their learning, and in some ways more connected than if we were in person, because if they're in person, they'd sit with people they know. Right. And when we're in Teams breakout groups or we're doing remote learning, they're connecting across the district with people they never would have thought about connecting with before. So it's been really positive.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Any other board member questions or comments? Okay.
I just have a quick question around high school ELA adoption. Is that going to change how our ELA teachers kind of plan and deliver instruction, more consistency across a 9th grade ELA classes, a 10th grade? So is that the intent, or can you just talk about that piece of the adoption process as well?
The intent is to And the intent in any classroom in Lake Washington is to have core adopted curriculum and core instructional strategies that go with that so that we have a guaranteed and viable learning experience. Core assessments, core instructional strategies, all those pieces. And we've, in different content areas and different buildings, that's played out in different ways. So the goal of an adoption is to clarify the core learning and resources and experience for students that are the result of all that learning. So it's not just out of, as a former English teacher, just not out of my head and my experiences, but a group of us saying, here's our best thinking about what students should experience. So we try to walk a balance, and like we did this with Amplify, where in Amplify ELA for 6, 7, and 8, we identified 100 lessons, and Amplify helped us with that. That if students did these 100 lessons, they would experience and learn all the standards. So that's a great core. So thinking about high school ELA, we also want to establish that core and be able to provide some flexibility so that teachers could, like at Eastlake, they loop their ELA with social studies, they block it. So we don't want to tell them that's terrible, like impossible to do that program. But we do, as a system, want to say, here's what we really value about core experiences, and we have decided that as a system what's best for our students to learn and experience. So it's a tension. But the goal is that we have that aligned learning across the system. And that is part of, I think, the work that happened this year that's actually been valuable that we want to make sure that we use as we plan for next year. All of that work in identifying the core standards and essential learnings that happened in core content areas and classes, all of that focus that PCCs have had on those aligned experiences, that's what a core element of effective learning and effective education. And we may not have done it if we didn't have to. And this year we had to. And so as we plan for going forward, we keep talking about the response to the pandemic is not a single year thing. Like, we're not just planning till June, we're not planning to get started in September. It's planning for years of what should students really learn and experience, and how do we make this be a growth opportunity that we're able to determine what that essential learning is and have students be excited about learning. And I look at like how excited kids are to come back, and I frame that in my head against conversations when kids used to be like, I'm so excited, it's a snow day, I can't wait to leave school. And now people really want to come back to school, and we want that to be something they continue to be excited about, and their learning is relevant and engaging and exciting and speaks to them. So I think there's a lot in every adoption. That's why it takes so long, is we're really focused on what's the learning that goes around it, so that when we adopt the new resources, like K-5 Science, it's not I had old things, now I have new things. I had old things, I learned a lot, and I'm changing the way kids think about science. That's the goal.
And I'll conclude my questions with this. You know, when I think about our race and equity work, you know, English language arts and social studies is like the heart of that. And can you just talk about how the My Perspectives curriculum helps take steps towards helping to create racially literate children?
So My Perspectives is, My Perspectives will help us establish core learning. One of the things that we are going to have to do with it, and this is true about, I mean, went through the same process with high school ELA that I just described with K-5 math. We went through 14 different curriculum. We ended with the 2 that we thought were best. We piloted them, and we made a decision about what we thought was best. It is not perfect, and so it actually is going to take some significant work to make sure that it hits all the things that we want as a curriculum. And I was thinking about this in terms of, I met a year and a half ago with the person who's the manager for the western half of the United States for McGraw-Hill, and was kind of giving him a peace of mind about curriculum options are not great. They are not reflective of 21st century thinking. Most of them are not dynamic. Most of them are not responsive, and they don't reflect the equity focus that we would want. And he said, you're right, curriculum companies frequently create what people will buy, and people buy what they're familiar with. And so we kind of lag behind the pace of change because we want people to buy curriculum. And it was McGraw-Hill, you know, that's one out of many. But My Perspectives is one of those where it is going to need some work. So the tool from OSPI, I met with several districts as part of an OSPI advisory committee. The screening for biased content, the way districts are using that tool is to take their adopted curriculum and evaluate it and identify needs and then fill in those needs. So our high school English language arts advisory, that's the next task, is we'll identify the essential learning experiences in my perspective. We'll identify any needs that we have for making sure that our curriculum continually reflects our students and is relevant for them. So it's one of my perspectives is, I think, the highest rated curriculum on Ed Reports, but it needs work in order for us to say this is something, and I think the work is exciting, needs work for us to say this is something that really meets all students and all teachers' needs, but I think that collaborative learning work is exciting and important.
Could I just, a follow-up is, will students be involved in helping to do some of that review of the curriculum and looking at that gap in my perspectives?
Absolutely. We have students on our social studies adoption as well. And our world language, we're doing some world language curriculum support as well. So we've got students on those committees as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Exciting. That is the only item on our agenda for the study session tonight. So it's 6:08. We have our board meeting starting at 7. So people can finish whatever they were doing before we started. Okay, we're adjourned.